Today's tech news moves fast, but understanding it shouldn't be hard. That's why Snarful Solutions Group brings you Connecting the Dots, where we break down what's happening in tech and why it matters to you. Now, let's dive in with your hosts.
Imagine a tech company taking over a decommissioned Cold War nuclear site just to build a single computing campus that uses like 5 times the power of the Hoover Dam.
Yeah, that sounds like science fiction.
Right, but it's not. That is happening right now in Ohio. And it's really just one piece of this massive multi-billion-dollar shift in how the artificial intelligence industry is operating.
Oh, totally. From the colossal hardware footprint on the ground all the way down to, the invisible fingerprints secretly hidden inside the very words on your screen.
Exactly. Welcome to our deep dive into the source material, broadcasting directly from the Snarful Solutions Group in Sacramento, California. I'm Alex.
And I'm Morgan.
Today is Monday, August 17th, 2026. And our mission for today is looking closely at 3 major tech stories that show exactly how the AI industry is maturing across the entire tech stack.
Right, from top to bottom.
Yeah. We are going to unpack massive corporate acquisitions at the software writing layer, then some mind-boggling physical infrastructure at the hardware layer, and finally, the highly controversial regulation of AI-generated text.
It's a packed one.
It really is. But before we get into the heavy stuff, let's look at the morning briefing.
So if you were local to Sacramento today, you can expect mostly sunny skies and a high of 90 degrees Fahrenheit. There's going to be a light breeze between 3 and 9 miles per hour.
Nice and easy.
Yeah, but looking at the national picture, things are a lot more active. There are currently 344 total U.S. weather alerts active right now.
Wow, that's a lot.
Yeah, and 129 of those are over land.
Oh.
So if you're traveling today or, if you have remote teams across the country, definitely check weather.gov for the latest details in your area.
Good call. And looking at the markets, things closed with a slight dip to start the week. The Dow closed down slightly at 53,597.08, and the S&P 500 dipped just a bit to 7,784.62.
How's crypto looking?
On the crypto side, Bitcoin is actually having a solid day. It's up over 1% to close at 63,545.28.
Okay, not bad. And for our sports update, the San Francisco Giants dropped their game to the Colorado Rockies yesterday. Final score there was 7-13, with Nick Frasso picking up the win for Colorado.
Rough one for the Giants.
Yeah. But on the other side of the bay, the Athletics secured a win against the Texas Rangers, 5-2. Luis Medina was the winning pitcher in that matchup.
Awesome. Well, before we look closer at today's top tech stories, let's fuel up. Today's episode is brought to you by Strong Coffee, the premium instant coffee that tastes like a traditional brew that is packed with 15 grams of protein, MCTs, and adaptogens like ashwagandha. Get clean, sustained energy without the jitters. Use promo code SNARFUL for 20% off at strongcoffeecompany.com.
All right, let's jump straight into the Morning Star, our tech article report.
Let's do it.
We are starting with a pretty massive financial shockwave at the software layer. Stripe, the payment processing giant, they're finalizing a deal to acquire OpenRouter.
Right.
And the reported price tag on this is more than $7 billion.
Which is wild. The timeline on this valuation is what is truly staggering to me here. Because just this past May, barely 3 months ago, OpenRouter raised money at a $1.3 billion valuation.
Yeah, and now it's a $7 billion exit.
It's incredible. Let's unpack this. Why is a payments company writing a check that massive for an AI startup?
Well, it really comes down to owning the infrastructure of the internet. OpenRouter is essentially an AI model marketplace, or, probably more accurately, it's an API gateway.
Okay.
Because if a developer is spinning up an autonomous agent right now, they need API access to foundational models to process information. But the landscape is fragmenting incredibly fast.
Right, there are so many options now.
Exactly. So hard coding a connection to just OpenAI or just Anthropic or just Google it's a massive liability. OpenRouter acts as a single unified access point for over 400 different AI models.
Okay, I think I get it. Think of it like an Expedia for AI.
Oh, that's a perfect analogy.
Yeah, instead of a developer going to American Airlines, then Delta, then United separately to find the best flight, dealing with all those different booking systems and, different login credentials, you just go to one aggregator.
Spot on. With OpenRouter, instead of managing separate API keys and billing cycles and different rate limits for hundreds of different AI providers, a developer just routes everything through one standardized schema.
And that completely prevents vendor lock-in, right?
Yes, which is the single biggest fear for working professionals managing corporate IT budgets right now.
Right. Nobody wants to be trapped.
Exactly. You aren't stuck paying premium prices to one provider. If you have a highly complex coding task, you route it to the most expensive, capable model.
But if you just need to, categorize 1,000 customer service emails, you don't need a premium model for that.
No, not at all. You can dynamically route that task to a cheaper, smaller model.
Which is critical right now because the market is suddenly being flooded with these incredibly cheap Chinese AI models that are, quite honestly, perfectly adequate for those basic repetitive tasks.
Yeah, exactly. Businesses are under intense pressure to manage their cloud compute costs. So an aggregator basically gives them the control panel to dial those costs up or down minute by minute.
Okay, so that control panel is exactly why Stripe wants this asset. Stripe became a multi-billion-dollar behemoth by becoming the invisible infrastructure for internet payments. They took the wildly complex world of credit card networks and normalized it into a few lines of code.
Right. And now they want to own the toll booth for AI infrastructure.
Yep. They're making an implicit bet on a future where there isn't just one singular God model that rules everything, but instead a massive, highly competitive commodity market of thousands of different models.
Exactly.
So Stripe is trying to control the software routing layer, capturing a tiny fraction of a cent every time a prompt is processed. But to power all these different AI models that OpenRouter is aggregating, you need immense physical infrastructure.
Oh, absolutely unimaginable amounts of physical silicon.
Right. Which brings us to our next story.
Yeah, so this is unfolding in Pike County, Ohio. OpenAI has just signed a 20-year data center deal with SoftBank's SB Energy to build the Ports Pike Technology Campus. And NVIDIA has stepped in as the exclusive AI compute infrastructure provider. And get this, the scale of this facility is 10 gigawatts.
Wait, let's put 10 gigawatts into perspective for the listener here. 10 gigawatts is 10 billion watts of continuous power.
It's massive.
For context, the Hoover Dam generates about 2 gigawatts. Are tech companies really building the equivalent of 5 Hoover Dams in a single location just to power chatbots?
I know, it sounds crazy.
I mean, it begs the question if the physical footprint of this industry is getting completely out of touch with real-world utility.
Well, the industry argument is that these facilities are no longer just running text generators.
Right.
NVIDIA's CEO, Jensen Huang, refers to these as AI factories. The computational power isn't for generating emails, it's for running massive simulations for, scientific discovery, material science, and drug development.
Okay, that makes more sense. But the sheer scale you mentioned is exactly why the financial structuring of this Ohio deal almost fell apart.
Oh, it got incredibly complicated behind the scenes.
Yeah, initially there were reports circulating that NVIDIA was going to backstop this massive project with a $250 billion financial guarantee.
And Wall Street absolutely panicked at that news.
I bet.
Yeah. NVIDIA's stock dropped 5% almost immediately. To understand why, you kind of have to look at how commercial real estate project finance works.
Okay.
You cannot get a loan to build a 10-gigawatt facility unless the banks are absolutely certain someone is going to pay the rent and the power bill for the next 2 decades.
Right, they need a guarantee.
Exactly. And the rumor was that NVIDIA was going to underwrite the future utilization of that hardware, taking on $250 billion in financial risk on their own balance sheet to guarantee the lease.
Wow.
Yeah, investors were deeply wary of a single chip maker acting like a commercial real estate guarantor.
So they were forced to restructure the deal to limit NVIDIA's financial exposure.
Exactly. Rather than guaranteeing the whole 20-year offtake, NVIDIA is providing credit support strictly on defined portions of the lease and the power build-out for the initial phase.
Okay, that's much safer.
Yeah, and alongside that, they are making a direct $1.5 billion equity investment into SB Energy. By injecting cash directly, it helps SoftBank raise the necessary debt on more favorable terms.
Right.
So that makes the facility viable without keeping $250 billion of contingent liability just hanging over NVIDIA's head.
Makes total sense. But, beyond the corporate maneuvering and the Wall Street drama, the physical location of this mega campus is a fascinating story of reindustrialization.
It really is.
They are building this on Department of Energy land, specifically a decommissioned 1950s uranium enrichment plant that spent the Cold War producing materials for nuclear weapons and Navy submarines.
It's a massive economic shift for Appalachian, Ohio, taking this dormant relic of the Cold War and turning it into the central engine of the modern AI economy.
Yeah, the project is expected to bring tens of thousands of well-paying construction and engineering jobs to the area.
which is huge. Plus, as part of the deal, they are setting up an $80 million community benefits fund to support local priorities like affordable energy and workforce development.
That's great for the area. So we have Stripe managing the software routing and NVIDIA building a 10 gigawatt physical moat at the hardware layer.
Right.
But there's a third layer to this stack that regulators are now aggressively trying to control, and that is the actual output, the words themselves.
Oh, yeah.
Speaking of the chatbots running in those massive Ohio data centers, how do you actually know when you're reading something they wrote? Let's explore this. Let's look at the invisible fingerprints being left on AI-generated writing.
So this involves Anthropic, the company behind the Claude AI models. They've announced they are rolling out a global text watermark.
Okay.
And this rollout is largely designed to comply with the European Union's AI Act.
Ah, the EU regulations.
Right. The regulation now requires AI providers to mark generated text that is over 200 tokens long, which translates to roughly 150 words of plain English.
You know, if you are listening to this and picturing a text watermark, you might naturally think of invisible characters hidden in the formatting, or, I don't know, maybe special HTML tags buried in the code.
Yeah, that's what most people think.
But that is not how this works at all, because that kind of watermark can easily be stripped out by simply copying and pasting the text into a basic Notepad app.
Exactly. To survive copy pasting, the watermark has to be embedded into the vocabulary itself. They are using a cryptographic technique called steganography.
Steganography?
Yes. And to understand the mechanism here, you kind of have to understand how large language models actually construct sentences. They generate text one word or token at a time, based strictly on mathematical probability distributions.
Okay, I'm with you.
So if the model writes the words "the sky is," it calculates the highest probability for the very next word based on its training data. Maybe the word blue has an 80% probability, overcast has a 10% probability, and dark has a 5% probability.
Okay, so how does steganography manipulate that probability?
Well, the watermarking system secretly categorizes all the possible next words in the entire dictionary into green lists and red lists.
Green and red lists.
Yeah. And these lists aren't static. They are generated dynamically on the fly using a secret cryptographic key that only Anthropic holds.
Sneaky.
Very. When the AI is deciding what word to use next, the system artificially tweaks the math, slightly increasing the probability that the model will select a word from the green list and suppressing the words on the red list.
Okay, let me offer an analogy here. It is like a master chef randomly substituting minor ingredients in a complex meal just so they can prove they cooked it later.
That's a really good way to think about it.
Yeah, like throwing a very specific dash of cinnamon into a traditional spaghetti sauce. A regular diner might not consciously notice it, but if the chef tastes it later, they can say, "Yep, that's my sauce. I know the secret ingredient."
Exactly. Over the course of a 500-word document, the AI is making hundreds of these tiny biased choices. If someone later runs that text through Anthropic's proprietary detector, the detector looks at the words used. If it finds a statistically impossible concentration of green words based on that exact secret key, it can state with mathematical certainty that Claude wrote the text.
But this introduces a massive controversy regarding the fundamental quality of the product, because words matter.
They absolutely do.
Synonyms are rarely perfectly identical in tone and implication. If you are asking an AI to draft a highly nuanced legal summary or a sensitive corporate communication, you want the absolute best, most precise word chosen every single time.
Right, you don't want it compromised.
No, you don't want the AI deliberately bypassing the optimal word just because it happens to sit on a secret red list designed to satisfy a regulator in Brussels.
Exactly. And the debate centers precisely on whether this degrades the utility of the model.
What do the companies say?
Anthropic, as well as Google, who uses a very similar steganographic system called Synthonite. They insist this does not degrade the quality of the prose at all. Yeah, Google actually published a comprehensive paper in the journal Nature defending this method.
Yeah.
They analyzed 20 million interactions and looked at user thumbs up and thumbs down ratings.
And what did they find?
Their conclusion was that the difference in quality between watermarked and an unwatermarked text was negligible. And completely imperceptible to human readers.
Okay, but a lot of tech critics are aggressively pushing back on that claim.
Oh, definitely.
John Gruber, the writer behind Daring Fireball, he had a particularly fiery response to Google's defense. He highlighted a specific example directly from Google's own documentation. Google explained that if the prompt is, my favorite tropical fruits are mango, and the word bananas naturally has a higher probability than a completely unrelated word like airplanes.
Right. The underlying logic being that the watermark isn't going to force the AI to suddenly start outputting absolute nonsense. It still respects the core context of the sentence.
But Gruber's counterargument gets to the heart of why this matters for writers. What about the word pineapple? What if pineapple is actually the more precise, better-fitting word for the specific rhythm and tone of that paragraph, but the AI chooses bananas strictly to satisfy a secret watermarking list?
Yeah, that's a problem.
If the system is actively pushing the mathematical optimization away from its naturally superior choice, it is by definition adulterating the writing. You are intentionally lowering the quality of the output.
It's so true. And Gruber also raises a highly practical issue for working professionals regarding proofreading.
Oh, yeah.
Think about the last time you drafted an original report or an email yourself and then asked Claude to just proofread it for grammar or lightly edit it for flow.
I do that all the time.
Well, because the AI has to regenerate the text to provide the edited version, it is going to continuously embed that green list watermark into your work. It is constantly nudging the word choices.
Wait, really?
Yes.
So your entirely human-generated thoughts and concepts might now flag as 100% AI-generated if your boss or client scans the document.
Exactly. It essentially destroys the utility of these advanced models as high-end editing assistants.
Yeah.
If you use them to polish your own work, you basically forfeit the authorship of your own writing to the watermark detector.
It is a wild situation. You have companies on the verge of $2 trillion valuations, fundamentally altering how their products perform on a mathematical level for a global user base, simply because they haven't figured out how to geo-restrict this watermark to just the European Union.
Yeah, users in California or Japan are getting their text adulterated just to comply with the EU AI Act. Is it really fair that a global user base must accept lower quality output just to satisfy an EU regional regulation?
It highlights the extreme friction at the collision point between borderless, cutting-edge technology and regional regulation. The EU writes a rule meant to ensure transparency and combat political misinformation, and the downstream mechanical effect is that every single user on Earth might be receiving slightly less precise prose from their AI assistants.
It's wild to think about.
Before we wrap up, a quick thanks to Old Glory, an iconic music and sports fan merch store, perfect for the techie in your life. Use promo code SNARFL for 15% off at oldglory.com.
Looking back at the sources we analyzed today, you can really see the entire AI ecosystem wrestling with extreme growing pains at every single level of the stack.
Absolutely.
At the software layer, you have Stripe dropping over $7 billion on OpenRouter just to wrangle the sheer chaos of hundreds of competing models into one standardized API gateway.
Right.
Then down at the hardware level, you have NVIDIA and SoftBank navigating complex commercial real estate financing to literally build a 10-gigawatt physical footprint on top of a decommissioned nuclear facility.
And finally, right down at the granular level of the individual words appearing on your screen, foundational companies like Anthropic and Google are actively manipulating their own mathematical outputs to appease international regulators.
It makes you wonder about the future landscape of the internet, and what happens to the text we consume every day.
It really does. If we connect this to the bigger picture, the steganography debate raises a really important question about the open source movement.
Oh, totally.
If the major corporate AI models, the Claudes, the Geminis, the ChatGPTs of the world are all forced by law to secretly manipulate their word choices to prove provenance, what happens to the open source models?
That's a great point.
Will a completely unwatermarked open source model suddenly become the premium standard for high quality writing simply because it isn't burdened by a secret green and red word list?
Wow, yeah. Are we headed for a two-tiered internet, divided completely between mathematically marked corporate language and unmarked open source language?
It is definitely something for you to mull over as you watch this space evolve.
It is a fascinating question, and one that is going to have profound implications for writers, developers, and really anyone who relies on text generation for their daily workflow.
We're here to help at Snarful, so reach out on our website if you have any more questions.
That's a wrap on today's top stories. Remember, tech doesn't have to be complicated, and we're here to help connect the dots. If you've got questions or want to learn more, visit us at snarful.com. Thanks for listening, and we'll catch you next time.